would have been a very successful town hall meeting. I must say I found the seminar to be extremely interesting and informative, as well as a platform for exchange of ideas, particularly with representatives from the other non-self-governing territories, including BVI, Bermuda, and Turks and Caicos. Of course, there were many others there, but those were the ones that were closest to us. And I'm indeed grateful to the special committee for extending an invitation to Anguilla and covering all of my travel and accommodation expenses, as well as to the government of St. Lucia for the excellent courtesies extended to me during the period of my visit. I could not have asked for better. Any questions before I go on to the other bit of information? Right. And then on the 4th of May, I would have attended a general staff meeting with the staff at the Immigration Department. And that meeting was attended as well by my permanent secretary, Dr. Aidan Harrigan. We would have had a very good turnout of the immigration staff. And among the matters discussed was population growth and the role that immigration can play in this regard. As you know, that this is one of my projects, one of my pet peeves, so to speak, that I'm actually championing. And I thought it would be prudent to have a discussion with the immigration staff. Those are the frontline persons. Those are the ones that persons see as they enter the island. So we had a very frank discussion about that. And we also discussed genuine ways to encourage persons to come to the island. We really want to see persons coming here to utilize the services we have to offer, of course, spend some money in Anguilla, and contribute to the economy. As you know, at the ports, persons can get up to 3 months at the port of entry. And we discussed that as well because we want to encourage more of that. If persons know that they can come for up to 3 months at a time, then when they're making their travel plans, they would then basically factor that in. We're not saying that everybody must come for 3 months, but we are saying we want to offer that facility to encourage more persons to come and spend more time on the island and buy more stuff in the supermarkets, consume more electricity, and so forth. But we also want to stress here, even though we are looking at trying to increase those numbers, we are not going to compromise national security. Because at the end of the day, all the relevant checks and balances will still be carried out. And persons who are looking to come to this island to basically not follow our laws, we still will be looking out for them and dealing with them. One of the things that was discussed at that meeting was an amnesty period for persons residing illegally on the island, persons not having work permits or immigration time up to date. We're going to say a little more about this later on, but just to let you know that this is being considered. And we just want to remind persons as well that to be residing illegally in Anguilla is an offense under Section 23(3) of the Immigration and Passport Act. So we're going to be looking at perhaps an amnesty period so that persons can have their statuses regularized. As you know, over the past couple of weeks, I've been speaking about the need for persons to get their statuses up to date. And this is coming to the fore, especially when persons are now beginning to look at the process of belonger and Anguilla status, and they're realizing all of a sudden that, you know, they have overstayed, sometimes up to 2-3 years, and they haven't paid up, and that is going to be a contributing factor to them not getting through with their status. And then we are looking at amending the present immigration policy to allow non-nationals of St. Martin, St. Martin, who are legally residing there and require a visa for Anguilla to enter without a visa on an ongoing basis. You will remember, or you will know, that around those key holiday times, the summer, Del Mar, Anguilla Day, Christmas, we normally have a relaxed period for persons to enter from St. Martin. We are going to make this now on an ongoing basis because we want to encourage persons from St. Martin to come over and spend more time in Anguilla. So we are looking at that quite seriously, and we will give you some more details as we get further into those discussions. So that's it for me for now. Any questions?
Good afternoon. Mr. Hodge, regarding population growth, most of the initiatives you just mentioned seem to me to be a bit short-term in terms of getting persons to come in Anguilla on a frequent basis, but population growth, at least in my mind, you want persons to come here, stay, and live and contribute. So what are some of the important or key factors that your ministry is currently working on to get that done?
Right. So, and I may have spoken about this some time ago. One of the ways we're looking at it, you know, currently there's a 10-year limit, a 10-year period for persons who wish to get time here in Anguilla to begin to get permanent residence. We are looking at shortening that period of time, where persons who are interested in purchasing land and building houses can gain that time a little earlier. So those are some of the ways we are looking at changing the current policy and legislation to facilitate that aspect. We haven't yet worked out the exact details of it. Of course, we will have to go to Executive Council and perhaps the House of Assembly, but those are some of the ways we are looking at.
I know CARICOM deals with the free movement of trade, free movement of people, and we are an associate member, but to me that will sort of fit into what we are trying to do in terms of growing our population.
We have never really gone full blast for the free movement because obviously we have to be careful. Even though we are encouraging increasing the population, we still cannot flood the country. We still have to ensure that we provide the level of services, health, social, school, other services to compensate. So no, it cannot be an open free for all at all. We still would have to be, it would have to be done in a measured way.
A question about the 3 months at a time. That is law now, correct?
It's always been there, yes.
And when people come in for 3 months, do they have to give up their passports? Do you know if they have to surrender their passport?
So we are not saying that you must come for 3 months. What we're saying, you have an opportunity when you are planning your visit. You may come for a week, whatever it may be, for business or whatever. So we're not saying we're going to give everybody the 3 months, but we say the opportunity is there if persons wish to come for those 3 months. And that has always been there, part of the legislation for immigration as well.
They don't have to apply for the 3 months ahead of time. They can just
No, when they come to the port, the immigration officer always has that discretion based on the circumstances of the visit to grant that time. But we are saying we want that to be more the normal rather than the exception.
So right currently they can ask for it and be denied. I guess I'm just
Sorry,
trying to-
if you...
Currently they can ask for 3 months and be denied it, or is it carte blanche? You come in, you ask for 3 months?
At the end of the day, we still have to ensure that the whole question of national security is maintained. So it doesn't follow that every single person will be granted, because we still have other factors to take into consideration, right? So no, we still have to ensure that our borders, our national security is not compromised. But we are saying we see it as an opportunity to get persons to spend a little longer in Anguilla.
What would be the main factor that immigration would say give the 3 months? You say that it would be on a case basis. Case basis on what criteria?
Okay, so you come to Anguilla, you want to come as a visitor, you want to spend some time in Anguilla, so we can give you those 3 months within which to enjoy yourself. And then if it is that you require an extension, then that you would go into the immigration department and make those inquiries, right? But the whole purpose of this law is to basically encourage persons to spend a little longer in Anguilla, and like I said, consume a little more in Anguilla, enjoy what we have to offer a little longer in Anguilla.
Honourable Minister, KCN Television. Talking about, is there not a policy that you would develop for this type of initiative that you want to take?
There's already an existing policy. There is an existing policy already.
Okay.
But what we are doing now, we are bringing it to the fore. We are sort of giving a little more prominence, so to speak. Right? But it has been there all the time.
Right, because if the policy spells out what the individual or what the individual has to present, character-wise and all of these things, I don't see that that can entail any problem.
So I'm saying it's a straightforward. It's just that it may not have been widely known before. There are those who know about it. But I figure from this platform of information, it's an opportunity for us to encourage more persons to take advantage of this, to spend more time in Anguilla.
Are you updating your immigration officers concerning this policy?
Yes, we are doing a general upgrade of our immigration and labor policies as well. That is something that is currently underway, because we have to make sure that these policies and legislation basically continue to evolve as our situation. The COVID pandemic has caused a lot of changes to be made in terms of how we go about things, and so all of this is being factored into that as well.
Okay, because we don't want to have little Caesars around the place, this person determine who stay and who go. There must be a clear policy where once persons have met what is required, nobody can stop that.
No.
Okay.
There's clear policies that guide. And I would say one thing about immigration officers, that they follow the law, right? Generally, persons look to the ministers for a little more discretion, so to speak, but as civil servants, they basically operate within the confines of what is permissible under the law.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you for those questions. I want to acknowledge the presence of our Public Relations Officer, Mr. Ivan Connor. And there are two programs that are available on social media, Progress Report and also For the Record. So you can look those up on your whichever platforms you access social media. I'd like to go over to the Minister for Infrastructure and Tourism to update us on that ministry. Minister Hughes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Premier. Greetings to all our listeners and those of you in the media corps. Just a quick update. As you know, last year we reminded you of the fact that we have been working on the Ski Prohibition Act. That is still in tow. And I'm talking soft. Sorry. I'm sorry. No, I said last year we had told you that we were working on the Jet Ski Prohibition Act. We continue to work on that act. We did some site visits and what have you, so we continue to work on that act. The Blowing Point Ferry Terminal is moving along nicely. The tiling has started. Some of the fixtures and equipment is already being installed. The plastering is being done, both on the interior and the exterior, so we're very happy with the progress over there. We also want to thank again Mr. Brian Corbett for all of the work that he has been doing on the Valley Main Road. He's been doing all of this work pro bono, installing all the plants, and just today he continues to install plants over at the Valley Main Road. And also would like to thank Mr. Junie Fleming for the largest donation of plants for the Valley Main Road. He has donated so many plants that will take a few days to install them, but work started on Saturday and it will continue today. We also will be installing a plant from the ANGUILLA Enhancement Project. It will be a palm. Hopefully we can install that in the region, in the area of the General Post Office. So things are moving along nicely, and the Valley Main Road is starting to shape up really nice with the enhancements that has been contributed by those persons who have dug into their pockets in order to help in that venue. As a matter of fact, while I'm here, I also like to thank Mr. Louvon Webster for contributing his contributing plans as well. Mr. Myron Connor, Aurora Hotel, Mako Insurance, Mako Insurance, Joan Hodge and the team over there. The ANGUILLA, the American University of ANGUILLA, for their contribution as well. So things are moving along nicely. As you can see, flow also improve the area in which they were responsible for over at the roundabout next to the Wall Blake area at the Clayton J. Lloyd International Junction. So we're very happy with all the contributions that has been made, and I was really hopeful that those persons who had issues at the commencement of this project with the plants and the trees and the green spaces would have really, either in kind or some time to help us plant some of those trees, or some contributions of some plants for the enhancement. But that said, we are very happy and grateful for all the contributions that have been made. We're also working through the regulations to regulate the taxi sector, the ground transportation sector. As you know, persons have used vehicles that have the C, which is the company vehicle, to move persons throughout the island, whether it be tourists or otherwise. Almost like a gypsy taxi situation. So we're trying to regulate that to have two classes of ground transportation, which would be the luxury sector and the taxi sector. So those are some of the things that we're working on. We have also been approached by the Taxi Association in terms of the rate, and we are looking at that as well. It's looking favorable at this time. We should be able to revert to them within the next week or two. We also moving forward to look at how we can develop the Louis Price Road. It is nothing set in stone, but the preliminary work as it relates to that is starting. So we're very happy with that as well. And there's a derelict vehicle on the junction coming out of the Jeremiah Gums Highway onto the Churchill Road, a derelict house that is owned by the government of Angola on the left-hand side. We are also looking at removing that derelict house and enhancing that area as well. So all things together between the private and public sector, we are trying to, improve the product, improve Anguilla as we move ahead. I almost forgot that we also opened the airport road this morning at 10 o'clock. We had a ceremony and a blessing by the newly ordained Reverend Wilma Hodge at the airport road, and that road is now in use, and we are very happy with that as well. So thank you.
Minister, you talk about what has been done on the Valley Main Road, but may I remind you that the signs, those markings need to be done, because people are still complaining about not being able to see the various diversion on the road, so that needs to be looked at.
Just last week we discussed that in the ministry to see if we perhaps may have to change the color of the markings on the Valley Main Road, because as you can see, it almost blends into the road itself, because the road was done by concrete, and it's universally accepted that the markings be done in white. So we're looking at how we can, maybe do the outlines of those markings to ensure that people can easily see them.
These two good projects have been completed successfully. What is the next project?
Mayor can speak to this more, but the next project that we are working on, he alluded to it earlier, and that is the airport terminal. There's a dire need to develop a new airport terminal, and we are hoping, with God's help, and everything lined up the way it should be, that we can commence the construction of that airport terminal in 2022. So that is the next important project that we'll embarking upon, because tourism has really overperformed this year. And I don't want to speak too much of tourism because I want to really lay the credit to my left hand, and that is the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, who really did a tremendous amount of work to get us to where we are today. If you can recall, when we came to office in 2020, ANGUILLA was shut down. 3,000 hospitality and tourism professionals and workers in that sector was at home waiting for a $1,000 check from the government of ANGUILLA through the $100 million that was provided to the government of ANGUILLA. Now, that is what it was. And the Honourable Premier, in his first statement to the Executive Council, said we must find a way to open this economy to allow for people to be able to earn a respectable living and get people back to work, and we must increase our appetite for risk. And on that, he tasked us with finding ways to work within the sector and with his ministry and the Ministry of Health to reopen the economy. Now, that did not come easy, because as you can appreciate, there was a particular radio station and persons on that radio station, especially at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning, who was saying that all of the work that we were doing was going to naught and no tourists will come to ANGUILLA. So we are wasting our time. This is a matter of historical fact. And we ignored the noise, and we continue to put our, as you would say, put the plow to the field, and here we are today. So all of the work that has been done to bring us to the point where today you can hardly find a construction worker, you can hardly find a bag of cement, you have to weeks in advance in order to pour concrete. The construction sector, the tourism sector is back because of the work of this administration, who was able to ignore all of the noise and stay focused and do the work that was needed to bring ANGUILLA to where it is today. So that is important, that we must understand that the promises that were made by this administration continues to be fulfilled. And I want to say this. When persons are saying that they love ANGUILLA, and they had projects such as the Valley Main Road and the resurfacing of the airport and a new Blowing Point Ferry Terminal, and they were getting this from some external source that will have concessions for 30 and 50 years to controlling our assets. And now we have those assets without having to relinquish control of them, owned by the people of ANGUILLA, granted by the British government. You should be celebrating it and not criticizing it, because we stayed focused and we ensured that there's transparency, there was a good governance, if I may use those terms, and there was a level of accountability, a high level of accountability, ensure that we deliver on these projects that they say they could deliver. And now we are driving on these roads, we are flying in on this airport with new airlift, full airlift going in and out 7 days a week, and we have a new Blowing Point Ferry Terminal that we commissioned before the end of this year. So we should all be celebrating. And when I hear persons say that GST is going to destroy the economy, but yet you lease land from the government of ANGUILLA just recently to expand your parking lot, you're building a new warehouse facility, and now you're constructing a new building because of the work that this administration is doing. It tells me, and it asks the question, are you serious in what you're saying to the people of ANGUILLA about GST and the like? So before I continue, I would ask the Premier to give me a nudge and stop me at this time.
Well, I have a question for you. Take a
You were
breath.
on a roll. I was happy.
Take some water. Back to the question about roads. Seamus Connor this morning, I happened to be there, he talked about the road enhancement plan was about at the 50% mark. So could you share with us what the other 50% may be, if it's shareable, and how it would be paid for? I know this one was a joint UK ANGUILLA thing, so that's my question.
So yes, Mr. Connor, and I must thank Seamus Connor and the guys over there at Maiku for the hard work that they do. Seamus, whether he's on vacation or whether he's off, he's there on the road every single day making sure that it lives up to the high standard that we expect. So when he spoke about the 50%, what he's talking about is this road, the network, this road behind the Ministry of Finance. that leads from the Cannonball Junction, leads from the airport actually, over to the Albert Lake Drive and down Coronation Avenue. So that is the other 50%. Now, you raise the point about financing, and hopefully GST will deliver on the promise to bring dollars into the coffers that we can now reinvest in the people of Anguilla, reinvest in the social and physical infrastructure of Anguilla. And that is the hope. The hope is that because these things don't come at cost, we cannot continue to ask the British government to invest in our country, to invest in our infrastructure. We have to learn, as the former Premier, Mr. Victor Banks, said some years ago, we have to learn to pay our own way. And we just cannot continue to be beggars. We got to be able to finance these projects to enhance our country, to develop our country, to ensure that we have a level of independence, so that when that day comes and we become a free and independent country, we can continue the growth that we hope to do. But we cannot do it by being beggars of the world. So that is important to note as well.
A question regarding water. I know that ANGUILLA has issued, what you call those, closure warnings, where they're shutting down electricity in certain areas for maintenance purposes. I've had some complaints or things brought to my attention about water being shut off every day in the afternoon in certain areas. Is there an issue with water on island?
Have always been an issue of water, and this is no secret. This is not a state secret. When we came to office, we outlaid the situation as it relates to water. There needs to be a $20 million capital injection in water to increase and improve the network, to rebuild the network, as a matter of fact, because we suffer from a significant amount of leakage. Over 60% of our water that we produce is leaked into the ground. That is significant. So this is something that is important for us as we move forward. How do we finance it? How do we develop it? So we have a lot of leaks, and every day that you drive on Inner Road in Anguilla, you'll see the hard-working men of the water corporation fixing leaks. So when you have to fix a leak, you have to turn off the water in that particular area. So it's really and truly a lot of leaks that is happening right now in South Hill. The water is turned off because there have been a significant leak as well. So this is something that happens every day, because as soon as you patch a leak in one area, the pressure builds and busts another area. So there's a lot of pinhole leaks as well. So there's a lot of problems that we inherited. As a matter of fact, when we came to office, the outstanding bill to ANGUILLA from the Water Corporation was way in excess of $10 million. So as you can see, there's a lot of issues that cannot be fixed in a day. But we work in every day to see what we can do with the hand that has been dealt to us. And that is where we are.
Issues are more with maintenance than water itself.
Definitely, but the issues is with maintenance, but it isn't so much maintenance really. There's a need to rebuild the network. There's a need to start from scratch and start the entire network throughout the island. And that's going to come north of $20 million US. So it's a significant investment that needs to be done. Now there's a lot of people who have been applying for water and cannot even get on the network. So imagine there's 2,000 people down from at its peak. 2,000. That is significant. That tells you how much revenue that a water corporation can derive if those people were able to get on the network. So these are the issues that we have. These are the challenges that we have. But I can tell you that Lana Richardson and the team over there at the water corporation is working every single day to see what they can do given the situation that they have in terms of the fiscal constraints and the product constraints that they have.
You spoke about jet skiing. Could you tell us what are the areas or area that will be designated for this?
Reality is that we want to take it as far east as possible. You know, for a couple of reasons. There's not a lot that is happening on the eastern side of the island in terms of the tourism product. and it also spreads it around. So those persons who have concerns about jet skis, you don't have to worry about it traversing the Meads Bay Beach, the Santa Ground Beach, or the Montes Bay Beach, or the Rendezvous Beach. So you want to spread the wealth, spread the products, spread the offerings, spread the opportunities around the island. And it is something that we want to have exclusively for Anguillians, because as you know, the Minister for Economic Development and the legislation that was passed by this administration recently not only protects the Anguillan business, but carves out certain businesses that we want to secure for the Anguillan people. Now, some people may think it's discriminatory, but it is nothing different to what China does. It's nothing different to what England does. It's nothing different to what the United States of America does. Each country has a solemn responsibility to protect its people and its citizens and the businesses within that jurisdiction.
Speaking of jet skiing, are you taking into consideration the effect it's going to have on our coral? I mean, just a couple months ago, we had a big presentation by someone from the department as to the death of some of the coral. And we know that the oils and spills from jet skiing and even just contact with the coral itself causes damage to it. So
I'm very happy for that question, because as you know, jet skis do not have propellers. It's water, it's jetted through. And we've had the Director of Fisheries have made a presentation on this in public consultation already that shows that jet ski have less of impact than the boats that traverse our waters. So this is a fact. And sorry? Yeah, and it will be very regulated. We don't have any regulations on our boats outside of trying to ensure that they do not infringe on our marine, our protected marine spaces. But the truth is, if you study and you look at the data and you look at the facts, you realize that boats with propellers do much more damage to our marine environment, to our sand quality. Because if you even go to certain beaches in Anguilla and you scoop some of the sand from the shore and hold it, you will feel the oil and see the oil in the water. That didn't come from jet skis, that came from boats, right? And especially in the Santa Ground area. So these are the realities. So the truth is that jet ski have much less of an impact on the marine life and the marine resources and the corals than boats can ever have.
perhaps we need to look at all of them. Boats and all. I didn't say ban anything. I said look at how it's done and regulations.
I want to go back to the water issue. You said when you all came into office it was north of $10 million. We know that there was a bit of contention between ANGUILLA and Water Corporation. What's the figure like now?
There is somewhere in the region of 13 million? Probably $13 million, probably around $13 million. But Water has been paying some of its bills. They have been paying, but it's just that they have not been able to keep up with the pace of the bills, right? So we've had discussions on the same, and Water and ANGUILLA continues to have dialogue, but it's not unique. You know, there are a number of major businesses in Anguilla, private businesses who owe significant debt to ANGUILLA as well. So we hear a lot about Water. We're not going to put them on blast. We're not going to call their names, but there's a number of major businesses in Anguilla that have significant bills to ANGUILLA. But, you know, it sounds good to say that government of Anguilla owes Water when the government of Anguilla, central government, does not owe ANGUILLA anything. It's, yes, you may have a statutory body here too that may owe, in particular Water, that has a huge historical bill that will take a lot in order to pay down that bill, because we cannot realistically imagine that Water can pay that $12-13 million tomorrow, you know. So it is important to understand which ones come first, the chicken or the egg. The infrastructure that needs to be done, to my mind, that is the most important factor. And so some of the other things that we are working on, especially from the government of Anguilla, is to see how we can push towards the renewable sector to ensure that ANGUILLA becomes more environmentally friendly, and in the long term save themselves a tremendous amount of money, because it was through this ministry, the Ministry of Finance, who recently allotted ANGUILLA that they did not have to pay duty on fuel coming to Anguilla. You know, the Ministry of Finance did that. But that shouldn't have been the Ministry of Finance job. Anglican itself should have known that they should not have to pay duties on fuel. But the Ministry of Finance did that. So these are the type of discussions that we need to continue to have, especially with the Board of Anglic, to see how we can make Anglic more sustainable, if I may say that. But like I said, the discussions need to be had.
Has there been a new CEO elected for Anglic or chosen?
The truth is, I don't know. I've heard on the street that there is a new CEO that has been selected for Anglic, but as far as being notified by the chairman and board of Anglic, I have not been notified of anything relating to Anglic. I have not even been notified that a human resource manager was hired months ago by Anglic. And this is the truth. I have not been notified, and and we have taken a relatively hands-off approach to the operations at Anglic.
How long has Anglic been paying these duties that you say that the ministry had to notify them that they should not be paying these duties?
Longer than you would imagine. Longer than you would imagine. A child entering high school at the start of it would already be graduated by now.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for the minister? Paul Sec, you want to update on anything tourism-wise? Thank you.
Good afternoon. Just a quick update on my quick travel to New York, I think last week, when I attended the Black Tie Gala event for the Trailblazer Awards held in New York to celebrate travel agents and travel writers who would have worked to promote ANGUILLA over the years. The three recipients of that award would have been Amelia Vanterpool-Kubish, Bill Pasha, and Jackie Gifford. So they would have done a lot to develop tourism in ANGUILLA. In fact, Amelia told me that she began in tourism in 1992. So it was really good to have an opportunity to speak with her about her visions for tourism and the work that she would have done there. We also held a luncheon for new and existing travel writers about ANGUILLA, so we were able to speak about ANGUILLA and the work that we are doing, the product, and how we are building the product here in ANGUILLA, and the relationship that we are building between the ATB and the other hotels, and as well as our travel agents. So it was a really good opportunity to speak about and promote ANGUILLA. Initially, the minister would have been there, but he sent me in the last minute. So it was really a pleasure to represent him, represent the government of ANGUILLA, and most importantly, represent the people of ANGUILLA, and speak about our great food, our great services, and this destination that is only becoming better and better and better. I was called by someone earlier, so I will just use this platform to clarify. I think there was a presentation on the radio today where persons would have believed that GST would be charged on service charge. So just as I have the mic, I would want to confirm that that is not so, and GST will not be charged on service charge. So how service charge we know works is that once you have your bill, let's say for example at your restaurant or at the spa, service charge is 15% and 15% is on the bill. GST will not be charged on the service charge amount. So it wouldn't be basically a double taxation. I think that is important to clarify. And also just to take the opportunity to express that we're this far into the conversation about GST and persons are still fear-mongering. I think it's pathetic, quite honestly, because we have made many efforts to educate persons. You could have write into the comptroller. You could have attended our many consultations. And to be at this point, I would say willfully lying to the people of Anguilla on GST. I think that, not misunderstanding GST. I don't think that that is pathetic. I don't think that not having the information on GST is pathetic. I think willfully misleading, fear-mongering, and just really creating unnecessary unrest about the topic is really ridiculous. And you can take me to tongue on that because I wouldn't change the words that I used. We're at a point, I think I had an interview for Progress Report today, and I was able to cover that. We're at a point where what we have today, and I'm speaking about this in relation to GST and the tourism product, is something that was crafted by the people of Anguilla. The GST regulation that we would have met coming into office in June 2020 is not the GST regulation that's here today. And I'm proud to say that because the changes that were made in tandem with the community. If you had a concern about your specific industry, you were given multiple opportunities to voice those concerns. And most people who would have voiced those concerns would tell you that they were not only addressed, but they were alleviated. Because it takes a country, it takes you, it takes me, it takes the man on the road and the CEO in the office to say, these are the things that I have concerns about. And then it takes the government to respond in the best way it can. Can we get rid of it at this point? No. But we can make it something that's palatable for the people of Anguilla. And I want to celebrate the Comptroller of the Inland Revenue and his team for not only hosting, inviting, but also going out to many of the hotels, many of the organizations, many representatives, so from meeting with different business industries, meeting with our commerce industry and our commerce partners to figure out their concerns and to ensure that our regulations will address those concerns and alleviate any impact that should not occur as a result of GST. So instead of going on the radio and flat out lying and fear-mongering, because that is what is happening, because many of the people who are fear-mongering are preparing for GST themselves in their professional capacity, and they understand the impact it will have and the impact it will not have. But they are going out there to prey on the concerns of people with genuine concerns. And I think that that needs to be addressed head on, because I think it's disappointing and, quite frankly, unpatriotic. If you have real concerns about GST, and it could be anything, you want to know what the rate is, you want to know what it's going to be applied to, the comptroller is available to every person. There's even an email address for GST if you have questions for it. I can put it, I can share it to you because I can't even remember that now. I think it's info GST at gov.ai. And persons have been emailing and they are being responded to. I think that at this point we need to combat miseducation by actively educating ourselves, because I think it's really disappointing, and the persons who will be impacted the most is a small person, the person on the street. And we need to, as a country, come together and deal with what we have been faced with. We all know this government and this administration's position as it relates to GST. We all know where we came from and where we are right now. But how we get something that's palatable is working together. And those persons who are trying to fracture the island, I say to them that you will not be successful. Thank you.
Just like to quickly congratulate Miss Janine Edwards, Wendy and Neil Freeman for a great event over the weekend. The Anguilla Culinary event was a tremendous event, not only showcasing the culinary exploits of the chefs and sous chefs of Anguilla, but also showcasing our destination. And I would like to also express from this platform our sincere thanks. So thank you, Janine, thank you, Neil, and Wendy.
Hi, going back to the GST, you just made mention that persons with genuine concerns, this could be addressed head on. We know the Concerned Citizens Group issued a letter today to the Premier and to the Attorney General, and basically in the 6-page document, it states that the GST Act is unconstitutional. They give you, I think, until May 31st to respond to the letter, or else they will go to court. So I'm just wondering, what is your comment about this? How do you intend to address this matter? I mean, Mrs. Gums-Marie said it's going to happen, GST regardless of what. But what happens if the legal aspect comes into play?
Well, as you said, the letter was addressed to me and to the Attorney General. I have, requested from the Attorney General his understanding of what's in the letter, and then we will respond in kind. I do think that, the GST Act went to public consultation. It was deliberated in the House of Assembly. It was passed in the House and was assented to by Her Excellency the Governor. I think it's law, and its implementation date is the 1st of July, 2022.
Regardless of the various sections that they highlighted, you strongly believe that government has a strong footing to go up against the Concerned Citizens Group?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but, and I can't discuss, what is constitutional or not, but I would say that, for this to have passed muster many months ago, to come in at the 11th hour with these theatrics, to me, that's all it is. And that's my position. But as I said, the Attorney General, will look at it, and he will give us advice regarding response.
While we're on GST, Mr. Premier, what penalties would your government face if we were to delay the implementation of GST?
I think that too has been answered because, without a doubt, I can say that if the GST Act had not passed on the 29th of July, 2021, that we would certainly be in the position where there would have been an order in council and it would have been assented to without, governments, passing it. So these are things that we know. We are not a self-governing territory. We do have an administering power, and certainly that is the feeling that, this tax is one that is broad-based, that it has predictable revenue, and therefore it is felt that by implementing it, you have a better understanding and control of revenue. ANGUILLA, as I have said from day one, has been skimming the surface and mostly underwater in terms of its finances. And, this is a means of being able to predict what the revenue will be and being able to target it, as the minister said. Certain roads, social infrastructure, such as health care for medical treatment overseas, for the vulnerable, to look at means testing for those who have difficulty meeting their obligations. And also, one of the policies that we have been pushing for and trying to implement is free health care for those who are 70 years and older. This can only be done if we are able to predict first what it would cost, and second, how we're going to raise the revenue to do it.
Merchants are arguing that they've already paid the 9%, and they'll have to pay the 13% when GST is implemented. Is that correct?
And we are working on, different systems to mitigate that. One was a temporary bonded warehouse program, such that anything that came before the 1st of July, so that they wouldn't be charged until the 1st of July when that's implemented into the, put on their shelves. Second was a credit system we've looked at and discussed that. A lot of the businesses didn't have a good inventory of what they have already that they've paid the 9% on. So we're looking now at some kind of a hybrid system for that. But that's, being discussed. And every business person that has concerns with that have had access to the controller and the tax consultant, to me also. And these are things that we will be working out.
Will there,
Forget that the 9% interim goods tax goes away. That goes away. We cannot be lost on that, because I heard today that it'll be compounded, so it'll be 9% plus the 1% plus the 13%. That's not the case, and 9% goes away. So next year, this time, so you won't have it. Definitely, you will see that, because from July the 1st, the 9% goes away. So I think we sometimes forget that aspect of it.
it's said that there will be a form of inflation when the GST is implemented, because of the present stock that merchants have. Will there be, or should there be, some type of concession between the old stock and the new stock that is it the supermarkets now or the stores now?
As I said, that is being worked on currently as a credit system that is being looked at. Also, there are other discussions that we're having with different merchants in that regard. And so the goal is not to have the items that the IGT 9% was paid on, that then the GST is added on top of that. That is not the goal, even though that is what was touted as gospel today on the radio. That is not the goal, and the merchants know that. This has been discussed for months now, long before this started discussions in January with the merchants regarding the transition period, which is in the legislation.
Dr. Webster, earlier in the press conference, I think Lloyd asked a question to Mr. Hughes as to what is the next project, and you mentioned the airport terminal. We know last week there was the Privy Council hearing the case versus the estate, Dame Bernice Lake deceased versus the AG. And we know they are basically assessing how much government should pay the family or the company for the acquisition. Pardon me? Well, yes, yeah. So I'm just wondering, what is your comment about this ongoing situation?
Well, when we came in, the case was at the Privy Council, and we decided we would allow that to run its course. Certainly all of us heard the deliberations, and we await the decision of the Privy Council. We do know that one of the goals of this administration is to expand the airport runway from where it is right now at 5,400 feet to about 7,000, and that is the intent. First, we want to get the terminal built and then work on the runway. We will require the land to do that. So when that is resolved, then we will know whether the government owes the estate of Dame Bernice Lake, or if that estate owes the government of Anguilla. Money has been paid. But other projects, Anguilla, the American University of Anguilla Medical School, that should start online classes for the pre-med classes this month, May 2022. We have Altima Marina, MOU has been signed for that. Savannah Bay Resort and Marina, the MOU for that is in its final stages. And the Rendezvous and Waldorf Astoria and Marina project, that MOU is being worked on currently. We're looking at gaming legislation for casinos, and certainly this would be very controlled gaming. And so these are the things that we are working on so far. So this administration is hard at work to enhance the lives of Anguillians and the well-being thereof. We also want to make sure that we have access to better healthcare services. So we have, MRI scanning machine was donated by the Richard Schultz Family Foundation. Mr. Schultz, as you know, is the owner of Aurora Hotel, Resort, and Golf Course. And we also had donations from Robert Seamus, who has a villa at Four Seasons to provide the electrical supply. And Mr. Schultz also is donating to the concrete pad, which is necessary for the containerized MRI. So we have investors who are very socially conscious. Mr. Schultz also want to put in a neighborhood health clinic to provide healthcare services to those who are underprivileged, or for those working persons who can't afford the premiums for healthcare. And so these are, as I said this morning at the road, we are working. Some of what we do is physically visible, and some is not, but they all will impact the lives of Anguillians positively.
A quick question. You just named quite a few developments and names associated with the developments, like the Waldorf Astoria. And I heard Minister Kyle Hodge on the radio recently talking about Ani at, so the Savannah development, I'm not hearing a name associated with that. Is there a developer? Is there a brand name?
There is a developer, yes. I can't tell you, I can't disclose the possible brand that would be affiliated. But developers would be Philip McCabe and Kevin Stoneburner of Naples, Florida. Mr. McCabe owns the Inn on 5th Street, on 5th Avenue, on 5th Avenue in Naples. And Kevin Stoneburner, he owns other developments, also a marina and office complex in Naples. But I can't tell you the brands that they have been negotiating with. I want to thank you very much for being attentive and for asking good questions today, as you usually do. And I know the headlines and the Daily Herald and Anguillian will say, Comptroller of IRD has been praised by government for his undying commitment to the people of Anguilla. Thank you very much. And we won't have a press conference next week because it will be the day before the by-election, and certainly would not want to, tie you down with that, since you'll be committed to being there on the 24th for the by-election. I want to thank you again for coming. Felicia Ennis from Radio Anguilla, Lloyd Gums from Lloyd Live, Dr. Joyce from the Anguillian, Don Hodge from the Daily Herald, of course, a public relations officer, the liaison to the Spanish-speaking community, Dietz for always being there in the trenches to make us look good, ministers, parliamentary secretary. Thank you again, and certainly be responsible, be careful. COVID is still here, but we take that personal responsibility to protect ourselves, get vaccinated if you're not, encourage others to also, and we will get through this, God being our helper. Thank you very much.